Alright guys, so taking a look here at features of functions, learning target 2.2. So a little practice with those features of functions that are points. Okay, so that's basically what we're doing here, is finding those features that are points. And the four features we have is the y and the x-intercept, and the maximum and the minimum. So remember, the y-intercept is simply where the line crosses the x-axis. Or crosses the y-axis, sorry. That would totally change things. Okay, so it's that point where the line crosses the y-axis. Remember, the y-axis is the vertical, x-axis is the horizontal. Okay, so if we look at this first one, we can see that our y-axis is right there, and our line crosses it at that point of 4. Now, we don't just put 4 in there. Okay, that's not how it goes. So, it's that point. So remember, when we're writing a point, we put it in parentheses, and the x value of the point, so where it corresponds along here, along the x-axis, goes first, then a comma, then the number where it corresponds along that vertical, that y-axis, is second. So looking at this point, we can see that it's a 0 followed by a 4, because 0 for the x, 4 for the y. So our y-intercept is 0, 4. Okay, now our x-intercept, we look at this one, and that's where the line crosses the x-axis. Okay, so same as this, but on the x-axis. And if we look at our line, it doesn't cross the x-axis at all, does it? Okay, so we would put none. We could also just put parentheses that are empty as well. That represents the empty set. And sometimes you'll run into that where you don't have an x-axis, or maybe you'll have multiple x-intercepts. Okay, I should say you always have an x-axis, just not an x-intercept. All right. Now, the maximum is simply the highest point, making the minimum the lowest point. Again, it's a point, so our highest point is definitely up there. X value of 6, y value of 10. So in parentheses, I write 6, 10. And then our lowest point is right here. X value of 2, y value of 3. So our minimum is going to be 2, 3. Okay. And that's all there is to it with the points. Okay, 4 graphs. So let's take a look now at the next few problems. So now we're going to do the same thing with the table. Okay, maybe I should go back up here a little bit. So first thing is that y-intercept. So what we should notice is every point here on the y-axis is going to have a 0 value of x. So I go down my x column and I look for the 0. The 0 is right here. So this point right here, 0, 10, is going to be where it crosses the x-axis. Okay, so if we were kind of thinking about this, we could look at here and say that our point right here is at 0, 10. Okay, that's our y-intercept. So then our x-intercept, right, is always along the x-axis, so it always has a y value of 0. So we look down here. Are there any zeros? Nope, which we noticed sometimes there's none. Okay, and that's all right to have. Then our maximum, we're going to look for those highest points. Okay, so those highest points we are thinking of in terms of, now here's where it can be tricky, because you may think, oh, well, 2 is my highest number. And it is on the x-axis, but remember, x's are horizontal. It's the y's that are vertical. Okay, so I want to look for the biggest number on the y, which is right here. So that's going to be my highest point, so that's my maximum. And it's all right for something to be more than one thing. Like, you can be the y-intercept and be the maximum. Now for the minimum, I find that lowest point, and that is my minimum. And again, I'm basing that off of the y values, not the x values. Okay, because if I really wanted to, I could actually go and plot all these points and kind of see what it looks like. If I were to connect the dots, we can see it looks something like this, which again helps us identify y-intercept, no x-intercept, lowest point, and highest point. Okay, so there's a little extra practice with that. All right, now if you haven't tried any on your own yet, because you weren't sure what to do, now is the time where you need to try it on your own. Okay, and then when you're done, so hit pause for the video, and then when you're done, take a look at it. Okay, all right. So y-intercept, remember, where does it cross the y-axis? Crosses right here. What is that point? It is 0, 2. Okay. Remember, x value first, then y value. If you write 2, 0, it's going to be wrong. Okay. Now, x-intercept, oh, we do have one that crosses the x-axis. Okay. And if we look at that, kind of hard to tell. We're going to have to estimate a little bit, aren't we? However, we do know the y value is going to be 0, because it always is on an x-intercept. Now, it looks like it's a little past negative 1.5, right? If I'm looking at this, I would probably say negative 1.5 would be like right there. So maybe a third, maybe something different like that. But I would probably just, if I were to estimate, you could do negative 1.5. I would accept that one. So that would work. I would probably go a little more than that. So I'd probably go like negative 1.6. Something like that. Okay, but you get the gist of where it's at, right? So there's our x-intercept and our y-intercept. Right? Y-intercept here, x-intercept here. Now our maximum, what's our highest point? You can see our graph goes clear up to there. So it would be 3, 7 would be our maximum. And what's our minimum? Our lowest point is right here, negative 2, negative 2. So negative 2 for x, negative 2 for y. In this case, can't really screw it up because they're the same thing, aren't they? Okay. All right, now we've got our table last. So again, first thing we're looking for with the y-intercept is where's x 0. You can see x is 0 right here. So our y-intercept is 0, negative 5. Then for our x-intercept, we look for 0 on the y-axis right there. So it's going to be 6, 0. Then finally, what's our maximum? Our highest point here is at 1, right? Because we're thinking vertically. Y is vertical. X is horizontal. Max and minimum are all about highest and lowest. So 1 is our highest number. So our maximum is at 9, 1. And minimum, our lowest, is at negative 5, so 0, negative 5. Okay, so again, if we wanted to, we could graph those points and see exactly what that would look like. Let's make it a different color. So 0, negative 5, we can't really see. 3, 4, 5 would be down here. Negative 3, negative 2. Right here, 0, negative 5, 3, negative 1, 6, 0, and then finally 9, 1 be somewhere over here. So it looks something like this. So again, highest point 9, 1, lowest point 0, negative 5, which is also the y-intercept because it would be on that y-axis, and x-axis 6, 0. Okay, so hopefully that helps you guys to recognize what to do when you're looking for those points that are features of functions, which are probably the easiest part of finding features of functions. So that should be enough to get you guys going, and you should be ready to do that one now, okay? All right.